I've seen these cool videos on Instagram about tufting and rug making. And I thought to myself, how do I make my life harder? You make a rug. So I started my journey, as anyone does, watching copious amounts of YouTube. And it was really entertaining. I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. I'll link the videos that I watched down below for reference. But they all had one thing in common. They had kits on there for $200+.
You're ugly. You are disgusting. I'm going to kill you. Give me $200.
And I don't have $200. So, using this timer right here, I'll keep track about how much money I'm using. Hopefully, it's below $200, but we'll see. So first, you have to get the material. Now, the first two that I looked into was a tufting frame, which you need to mount the fabric on, and a tufting gun, which you actually need to tuft the fabric. And in my search, there was some frames for $40 to $80. Completely outrageous. It was just two 2x4s and carpet grippers. So I did what I thought was wise at the time, and I went down to Lowe's and I bought myself two 2x4s and some carpet grippers. So you just split the 2x4s in desired length, leaving extra on one of the sides, so you can clip it to a table. It really wasn't that difficult. I did mess up at one point because I just wasn't paying attention. But the frame turned out really well, and the carpet grippers, the clamps, and the wood all together only cost me $12. Now next up is the gun, the tufting gun. It's the most expensive item, and I got mine a little bit cheaper than I should have. On Amazon, it says it's for $109 right now. But I got mine for $90 because the packaging was messed up, and I just didn't care about the packaging. So I just got off Amazon for $90, and it came with a tufting gun, a carpet gripper with the guide, and a carpet scraper. First, let's get the monk's cloth and the yarn that we're going to use for our design. Now the real fun begins. I get to actually design the thing I'm going to make. Now, I love cyberpunk, so I wanted to do something that would remind me of it. And to do that, I did the Arasaka symbol, which is the mega evil corporation, with a kind of spray painted design all across it. Now with that is a trip to Walmart. And on my trip, I got a monk's cloth for $13, and then the yarn for $30. All right, once you have the cloth, it's time to stretch it out across the tufting frame so that it's taut all across, and that when you flick it, it has a nice bounce to it. But you also have to make sure the lines of the monk's cloth are well lined up. The crosshairs should be straight all across. After that, it's time to trace your design. But first, make sure to flip it before you project it onto the cloth that you're using, because it will come out kind of mirror flipped. To project the image on, you need a projector. Now, I won't count it towards my total because I had the projector on hand because it's the thing I used for college for 2 years as a TV. But you can find these for $60. And then you just trace it over with a Sharpie. Then it's time for the fun part. You actually get to start tufting. Now, since this was my first time tufting, I did use a little bit of practice to get a feel for how fast I was supposed to go through the fabric and how much pressure I really was supposed to apply. Then I started tufting. really, really fun until disaster struck. I poked a hole into the fabric. Now, this spells disaster for any rug. And from a lot of sources I found online, there's no real recovery from it. That was until I found this YouTube channel, Artsy Madwoman. And she kind of taught me how to use floss to kind of maneuver your way and re-sew it back in. Now, it was my fault for going too fast with the tufting gun, but this kind of helped fix it a little bit. And it did save it to a point in which I didn't have to completely start over. Then it was about using the gun and getting more used to it. And by the time I was on the black fabric, it was pretty easy. All I had to do was go slow and just stab the fabric as hard as I could. It was pretty fun. And then you just keep tufting until you're done. I had to go back over and fill in a few gaps that I've noticed with the red and the blue. But if you're a better tufter than I am, you would need to do that. After you're done tufting, what you need to do is apply a glue onto the back. Now, what I'm about to show you is considered a cardinal sin in the rug making community. I used Elmer's glue. Now, Elmer's glue isn't bad, but it isn't really good either. What you should be using is an industrial grade glue that costs around $20. I bought this for $7 from Walmart. So after you apply the glue, you want to wait 24 hours before coming back. It should be this yellowishy color on the back, and then you want to cut out the rug. You want to cut it from about an inch from the yarn that you tufted into the fabric, so that you have a border that you can fold back over and have a nice crisp edge along the rug. Now, to fold this border back over, what you want to do is cut it into little strips, especially on my circular design, and then use hot glue to kind of pin the edges back down. You do this all the way around the rug, and it should look something like this at the end. Now, after you're done pinning down all the edges of the monk's cloth back onto itself, you want to pick out a backing. Now, I picked felt, and it's only because a whole bunch of people recommended it, but any non-slip backing would do. So to apply the felt backing, what you need is hot glue and adhesive spray. What you want to do is lay the rug down with the back up, and then you want to use the hot glue to glue the back fabric onto the rug. And then in a well-ventilated area, wearing a mask, use the adhesive spray and tacked on the back felt onto the rug. Then you go back over, peel up the felt backing a little bit and then go along the edge again with hot glue. I figured that it was time to begin work on the front of the rug, and that includes using the carpet shaver and the guide. Using those two, I was able to clear off the extra yarn that was sticking up and make sure that everything was uniform across the rug. I then took the carpet scraper and scraped right out the rug to make sure that all the yarn was stuck in to the fabric properly. Now, this is my first rug, so I didn't want to make it a 3D effect like so many cool other rug makers do. I just carved mine up and then used tweezers and scissors to kind of make the lines of the samurai look more lined up. Now, I did attempt a little bit of a shaving, but nothing major. Now, we're finished with the rug making, and before I release my total and show you the final design, I'm going to tell you what I learned. First, I was going too fast with the tufting gun, and that's the reason why the hole was even there in the beginning. It could have spelled disaster for the entire project, and luckily Artsy Madwoman helped me out, but still, I needed to go slower, and I learned that later on it really felt better to go slower as well. The second thing I learned was to outline each section before I filled it in. This made the carving process way easier later on the sections that I actually did outline because of the uniform line across them. And here it is. I'm pretty proud of how it looks. I think it's distinct, and honestly, for a first-time rug with how it turned out, I'm pretty proud. It only looks like a dog took a bite out of it right here. I call that a win. And the moment you've all been waiting for. How much money did this rug cost me to make for a first-time rug maker? Now, I know that seems like a lot, but it really wasn't. A lot of those expenses were first-time expenses that you'll only have to pay one time, like the tufting frame or the gun, the shaver, and the carpet scraper. You only have to pay that one time, and then you can use it over and over again for multiple rug projects. The glue and the adhesive, the hot glue, the yarn, all of that is going to be a recurring expense for future rugs. But I'll cover that in the next video as well. But anyway, I had a fantastic time rug tufting for my first time ever. And I'm excited to do it again in the future. Alright guys, I'll see you guys later.